Dividing decimals. Today's joke is Dave told Bob a joke about decimals, but he didn't get the point. Today's lesson is dividing decimals. Our Indiana academic standard is 7.2.1. We're going to be dividing decimals. There are 5 steps to dividing decimals. Step 1 is to write the problem down. Make sure you put the divisor outside and the dividend inside. Step 2, move the decimal and the divisor so it becomes a whole number. In this particular case, we're going to move it 2 places to the right. Step 3, move the decimal and the dividend the same number of spaces. If you move the divisor 2, you're going to move the dividend 2. Step 4, place the decimal in your answer. That means you're going to take it right straight up. You put the decimal in the answer before you put any numbers above the line. And the final step is to divide. Yes, we're doing long division, so I'm going to see a lot of work. Pause the video at this time so that you can finish writing down anything that you need to write down. Don't forget to write down any questions you have. You have to have a question when you come to class. So in this first example, we have 1 and 512 thousandths divided by 36 hundredths. The 36 hundredths is our divisor, so we write that outside of the box. The 1 and 512 thousandths is our dividend, so we place it inside the box. Step 2 is to move the decimal in the divisor so it becomes a whole number. In this example, we have to move the decimal point 2 places to the right. Step 3 says we have to move the decimal point in the dividend the same amount, so we're going to move it 2 places to the right. Step 4 tells us to place the decimal in our answer, so we're going to take it right straight up and place it in our answer. Now, I don't expect you to write your problem a second time in your homework, but they've rewritten the problem now, and we have 36 going into 151 and 2/10. We've had the decimal point in the answer, and now we're ready to begin to divide. We start by asking ourselves, will 36 go into 1? Well, it can't. So then we ask ourselves if 36 will go into 15. Again, it can't. Then we look at 36 going into 151. We know it can go into that. We just have to figure out how many times. Some of you may have to do a little bit of math off to the side, but we can do a little bit of estimating here. 36 is obviously between 30 and 40. 30 would go into 155 times. 40 would go into 153 times. So a good estimate would be 4. So let's try that. 4 times 6 is 24. So we put the 4 down and we carry the 2. Then we take 4 times 3. 4 times 3 is 12, plus the 2 we carried is 14. Now we're ready to subtract. We can't have 1 minus 4, so we have to borrow from the 5, which becomes a 4. So then we have 11 minus 4, which is 7. 4 minus 4 is nothing, and so is 1 minus 1. Now we're ready to bring down the 2. So now we have to ask ourselves, how many times will 36 go into 72? Well, 3 goes into the 7 about twice, so we're going to try that. 2 times 6 is 12. Carry the 1. 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1 is 7. So we have 72 minus 72, which is 0. So 36 goes into 151.2 4.2 times, or 4 2/10. That means 36 hundredths goes into 1 and 512 thousandths 4 2/10 times. Pause the video at this time so that you can finish writing down anything that you need to write down. Don't forget to write down any questions you have. You have to have a question when you come to class. Let's try a few more examples. We're finding each quotient. For quick check A, we have 12 and 42 hundredths divided by 5 and 4/10. 5 and 4/10 is your divisor, so it goes outside of the box when we write the division problem. 12 and 42 hundredths goes inside the box. Step 2 is to move the decimal point in the divisor so it becomes a whole number. In 5 4/10, we're going to move the decimal point one place value to the right. Then we're going to do the same thing inside the box to the dividend. We're going to move the decimal point one place to the right. So we end up with 124 2/10. Step 4 says put the decimal point in your answer, so take it right straight up and put it in the answer. Now you're ready to divide. So we ask ourselves, does 54 go into 1? No, it doesn't. Can 54 go into 12? No, it can't. Can 54 go into 124? Yes, it can. You have to figure out how many times. 54 can go into 124 2 times. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 5 is 10. So you have 124 minus 108. So we begin our subtraction. You can't have 4 minus 8, so you have to borrow from the 2. Then we have 14 minus 8. 14 minus 8 is 6. Next we have 1 minus 0. 1 minus 0 is 1. Then we bring down the 2. So we have 162 divided by 54. 5 goes into 16 about 3 times, so we're going to try that. We write the 3 up in the quotient. 3 times 4 is 12. Write the 2, carry the 1. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 1 is 16. Then when we subtract, we have 162 minus 162, which is 0. Pause the video at this time so that you can finish writing down anything that you need to write down. Don't forget to write down any questions you have. You have to have a question when you come to class. Now we're going to try sample B. 67 84 hundredths divided by 64 hundredths. Write 64 hundredths as the divisor outside of the box. Write 67 84 hundredths inside the box. Now we're ready to do step 2. Move the decimal point in the divisor. We're going to move the decimal point 2 places to the right. So that's going to make our divisor 64. Since we moved the divisor decimal 2 places, we have to move the dividend decimal 2 places. So that gives us 6,784. Our next step is to put the decimal in the answer, so it's going to go right straight up. Now we're ready to divide. 64 cannot go into 6. It can go into 67, and that's fairly easy. 67 divided by 64 can go in 1 time. 1 times 64 is 64. Now we can do our subtraction. 67 minus 64 is 3. Now we bring down the 8. Whether you draw this arrow, that's up to you. I'm going to draw it just as a reminder. 64 cannot go into 38. So we must put a 0 in our answer to hold that place value. If we don't put the 0, we're going to have problems. Now we're ready to bring down the next number because 64 wouldn't go into 38. We're going to bring down the 4. So now we have 384 divided by 64. So we have to think about how many times will 64 go into 384? We think about the number 60. How many times will 60 go in to 384? It would go in 5 times. But actually, if we think about this, it'll go in more than that because 6 would go into 38 6 times. So we're going to try that. We're going to try 6 times. 6 times 4 is 24. Carry the 2. 6 times 6 is 36. Plus 2 is 38. So we have 384 minus 384, which is 0. So our answer is 106, not 16. Pause the video at this time so that you can finish writing down anything that you need to write down. Don't forget to write down any questions you have. You have to have a question when you come to class. Now we're going to try sample C. 144.06 divided by 9 8/10. 9 8/10 is your divisor and goes outside of the box. 144.06 is the dividend and goes inside the box. We start with the divisor. We have to move the decimal point one place to the right to make it a whole number. If we move the divisor one place, we have to move the dividend one place. Now we place the decimal point in our answer so it comes right straight up. Now we're ready to begin dividing. 98 cannot go into 1. 98 cannot go into 14. It can go into 144. So 98 goes into 144 one whole time. 1 times 98 is 98. Now we can subtract. We're going to have to do some borrowing, so I'll do that in red so that it's easier to see. We borrow from the 4, which becomes a 3. Now we have 14. 14 minus 8 is 6. Again, we're going to have to borrow from this 1 to make this 13. 13 minus 9 is 4. So we have 46. Next, we're going to bring down the 0. So now we have 460 divided by 98. We can do some estimation skills here to help us figure out how many times 98 will go into 460. 98 is almost 100. 100 would go into 460 4 times. So we're going to try that. So we write the 4 above the 0. 4 times 8 is 32. Carry the 3. 4 times 9 is 36 plus 3 is 39. We have to borrow again to do our subtraction. So that 6 becomes a 5 and the 0 becomes 10. 10 minus 2 is 8. Again, we can't subtract here, so we borrow from the 4, which gives us 15 minus 9, which is 6. So we get 68. We're now ready to bring down the 6. So we have 686. So we have to ask ourselves, how many times will 98 go into 686? And if we use the method we just did before, where we rounded 98 to 100, it would go in 6 times. But I'm going to help you out here and tell you it actually goes in 7 times, just to save some time here. So 9 times 8 is 56. Write the 6, carry the 5. 9 times 7 is 63, plus 5 is 68. And so we get, my pen is not working very well right this second, a little delay here. So we get 686 minus 686, which is 0. So our final answer is 14 7/10. Pause the video at this time so that you can finish writing down anything that you need to write down. Don't forget to write down any questions you have. You have to have a question when you come to class. We're going to try a story problem now using division. It says, in a restaurant, one serving of coleslaw weighs 3 5/10 ounces. The owner buys coleslaw in cans that weigh 98 ounces each. How many servings are in one can? So we set the problem up by taking 98 ounces and dividing by 3.5 ounces. And the first step is to move that decimal point like we've done before. So we move the decimal point in the divisor one place. Then we move the decimal point in the dividend one place. And now we're ready to divide. So we have now 980 divided by 35. We ask ourselves, can 35 go into 9? No, it can't. But 35 can go into 98. 35 can go into 98 2 times. 2 times 5 is 10. Write the 0, carry the 1. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So we have 98 minus 70. 8 minus 0 is 8. 9 minus 7 is 2. Now we're going to bring down that 0. So we have 280 divided by 35. We can use some mental math to help us out here. 35 is halfway between 30 and 40. 30 would go into 280 9 times, because 9 times 3 is 27, so that would be 270. 40 goes into 280 7 times. So since 35 is halfway between those two, we're going to check and see if it will go in 8 times. 8 times 5 is 40. Write the 0, carry the 4. 8 times 3 is 24, plus 4 is 28. So we have 280 minus 280, which is 0. So we found out that the quotient is 28, which means there are 28 servings of coleslaw in the can. Pause the video at this time so that you can finish writing down anything that you need to write down. Don't forget to write down any questions you have. You have to have a question when you come to class. I want you to try the quick check number 2 on your own. I will read the question to you first. You use 6/10 of a pound of bananas in each smoothie. How many smoothies can you make with 3 and 12/100 pounds of bananas? Try to figure this problem out. Pause the video. Once you've tried it, then you may continue the video and check your work. So 6/10 goes into 3 and 12/100, 5 and 2/10 times. So you can make 5 and 2/10 smoothies. One thing I want you to start doing is whenever we have story problems or any kind of problem in words, you need to write a complete sentence to answer the question. We'll talk about this in class tomorrow. This is at the end of today's lesson. Sorry it was such a long one, but division just takes a long time to do. If you are not finished with the notes, please pause it and finish correcting this last problem. Also, don't forget, you need to have a question for class tomorrow. Some of you have been struggling with this. Really think hard and try to come up with a question that you can ask me in class tomorrow. Some of you have done a fantastic job of thinking of some higher level questions. Let's really challenge ourselves tonight for a good question. See you in class tomorrow. I sure hope you got the point today.